Kieffer Bellows is now a member of the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll talk about that situation. Plus, the Islanders face two tough tests this weekend with games against the Hurricanes and Avalanche. We have a full preview, and the greatest Islander of all time is our Islanders' birthday of the day. We've got all that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the weekend edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today and be part of the Locked On Islanders family. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. But first, if you've got something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, a topic maybe that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, so join me for instant insight and analysis, and it's always great to interact with Islanders fans during a game and really any time. So feel free to contact me on Twitter. The big news yesterday, Thursday, the Philadelphia Flyers announced that they have claimed Kieffer Bellows off waivers from the Islanders. Bellows no longer a member of the Islanders organization. They placed him on waivers Wednesday, trying to get him down to Bridgeport, but the Flyers end up picking him up. Flyers dealing with injuries. Sean Couturier, James Van Riemsdyk, Cam Atkinson, all sidelined. That'll probably give Bellows a chance to make a good first impression as a Flyer. But, again, it's kind of up to Kieffer Bellows to show that he can become a full-time NHL player, something that he really hasn't demonstrated consistently just yet. Now, the Islanders and Lou Lamoriello were hoping that a $1.2 million contract would keep opposing teams away from Bellows, but the Flyers basically said, no, we're interested. The Islanders now have a little more than $3.7 million in cap space available after Bellows has been claimed. And they still have one roster spot available. The logical move, Robin Salo to be brought up from Bridgeport to take Bellows' place and give the Islanders a seventh defenseman. And probably, he'll be back in the lineup opposite Scott Mayfield, although Sebastian Aho had a pretty good second and third period, at least, against the Rangers on Wednesday night. Now, there were some rumors, as reported by Kevin Kurz of The Athletic, that maybe the Islanders were looking to deal Kieffer Bellows and maybe either Josh Bailey or Anthony Beauvillier, and that's why those guys sat out, were healthy scratches each of the last two games last weekend, but no deal coming through, and now Bellows has been lost to waivers. And, it's disappointing. I have very mixed feelings about the entire Kieffer Bellows saga. I like the kid. I remember when he was first drafted and speaking to him at the Islanders rookie camp that year. But realistically, he never fully established himself as a full-time NHL player. And I think this is sort of a two-part problem. On the one hand, I think the Islanders failed Kieffer Bellows, didn't give him much of a chance, uh, didn't allow him room to make mistakes. If he made one mistake, Barry Trotz would sit him, and then he would maybe ride the bench for, the next 5 or 6 games, come up, play a game or two. If he played well, he'd get another game or two. If he didn't, back to the bench for another 5 or 6 games, barring injury. And I don't think the Islanders organization did Kieffer Bellows or Oliver Wahlstrom or a number of their young players any favors with the way they handled Bellows' situation. But at the same time, Bellows didn't show enough to earn that everyday spot in the lineup. And yeah, he's looked good in stretches. He looked good the last couple of games of the preseason this year. He had his moments when he was called up to the Islanders and had some strong games here and there. But, this Islanders system, and we saw how well it worked against the Rangers the other night, it's based on the forwards back checking, picking people up, being positionally sound. And if you're not going to do things away from the puck that the coaching staff is asking you to do, you're not going to play consistently, even if you are producing offensively. And Bellows wasn't quite doing that on a consistent basis. It's one of those things where I think the team let the player down and the player disappointed the team. Both sides could have done more to make this relationship work. I know as a power forward that, Kieffer Bellows, power forwards tend to develop a little bit later. They don't usually make their mark right away. Well, Bellows now is no longer a kid. And, at the age of 24, he's getting to the point where this opportunity with a banged up Philadelphia Flyers team may be his last really good chance to prove he's a regular all-time NHL, player, a guy who can go out there and give you power forward performance and be productive. And, Kieffer Bellows doesn't have to be a 30 or 40 goal scorer, but I need to see, even at this point, that he deserves to be in the lineup every day and that he can give you 20 to 25 goals a year and be responsible defensively and physical offensively. So it's disappointing. I like Kieffer Bellows. I wish him well, obviously, except when he's playing against the Islanders. But that's it. Now, the reserve forwards going forward are going to be Ross Johnston and Sashnikov. That's the two players who are going to be around and ready to sort of fill in if injuries hit. Nikita Sashnikov has, done his job. Ross Johnston done his job when called upon. They both played games this season. And I think they may be a little bit better suited to playing a game or two and taking those 4 or 5 games off than Kieffer Bellows was. If Bellows is going to become something, he's got to play regularly. The Islanders were kind of hoping to do that by sending him down to Bridgeport, but obviously it didn't work. So for Kieffer Bellows, an ex-Islander, and he will go down as a disappointing first-round pick, 19th overall back in 2016, and now an ex-Islander. So kind of disappointing, but we wish him all the best. We have got a lot more to discuss. 2 big games coming up, one tonight, one tomorrow. One road game, then a home game against the Hurricanes and the Avalanche. We'll preview both of those games, all that and more still to come on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, hockey, and golf. Hey, maybe after seeing what Ilya Sorokin did against the Rangers, you think he can repeat that performance this weekend when he plays against either Colorado or Carolina. Maybe it's worth a wager on the Islanders when Sorokin is in the goal. You can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Want to thank you again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. Now make your second listen game to game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every contest from across the National Hockey League with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. 2 games coming up for the Islanders now, and these will be challenges. The Islanders facing the Carolina Hurricane Friday down in Raleigh at 7 o'clock Eastern time. The road game won't be easy. Hurricane right now, first place in the Metropolitan Division, 4-1-1 through 6 games, and they're getting it done primarily with defense. The goaltending duo, Frederik Andersen and Antti Raanta, both playing quite well. And the Canes right now, second in the league with only 14 goals allowed in 6 games. You look at the numbers, Andersen, a 2.26 goals against average and a .913 save percentage. Raanta, a 1.93 goals against average and a .922 save percentage. And, you know, right now, who's red hot on the Carolina Hurricanes? How about Andrei Svechnikov? 7 goals and 9 points in 6 games. 3 of those 7 goals and 4 of those 9 points coming on the power play, where he is even more dangerous. We all know about Sebastian Aho, not the Islanders Sebastian Aho, but the Hurricane Sebastian Aho. He also has 9 points, 4 goals, and 5 assists. And then Martin Necas, 3 goals, 8 points in 6 games. So this is a team that, even though they are only 21st in the league in goals scored, they are tough to play, mostly because of the strength of their goaltending and their defense. The power play, middle of the road right now, 14th out of 32 NHL teams, but 22.7% effective rate. That'll get you someplace over the course of the season. The penalty kill also middle of the road. They're 18th, 78.3% allowed. We'll look at the line combinations for the Canes. The top line, very dangerous. Sebastian Aho centering Teuvo Teravainen and Seth Jarvis. Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Oh, that's always a tough one. Centers Svechnikov and Necas on the second line. Jordan Staal now on the third line, along with Jordan Martinook and Jesper Fast. This is a deep team, folks. Paul Stastny, the fourth line pivot, with Stefan Noesen to his left and Derek Stepan to his right. Defensively, Brent Burns and Jacob Slavin are the top pairing. Brady Shea and Brett Pesce are the second, and Jalen Chatfield and Dylan Coghlan the third. We mentioned the goalies, Andersen and Raanta. Right now, Max Pacioretty and Jake Gardner are on IR, and Andre Cachet is out of the lineup, although we'll see if he has a chance of returning against the Isles. But, you know, this is a fast, deep, capable Carolina team. And what would be better, you know, to build off of that nice shutout win against the Rangers than to try to shut down a talented team like the Canes. Now, the Canes, they struggled a little bit in their last 3 games. They have the loss in Edmonton back on October 20th, an overtime loss in Calgary on the 22nd, and then a 3-2 win in Vancouver on the 24th. They've had a lot of rest, 3 days off in between these games, so they will have their choice as to who they want to play in goal and what they want to do. Now, they're in Philadelphia on Saturday. They're playing a back-to-back, so we'll see who they go with in goal against the Islanders. For what it's worth, Frederik Andersen played the last game for the Hurricane. And, who do they want? Do they want Andersen, their starter, against the Islanders, or will they save him for the game against the Flyers? Islanders also playing back-to-backs. You got to figure maybe that Lane Lambert decides to stick with Ilya Sorokin, who played so well against the Rangers. Maybe they go with him against Carolina, which is a more important game because it's a divisional game. Or maybe they save him, give him the day off, go with Varlamov, and then wait and save him for the game Saturday against the Colorado Avalanche. The defending Stanley Cup champion Avalanche right now 4-2-1 through 7 games. Goaltending has sort of been their big question mark. Alexander Georgiev is their starter. He is 4-0-1 in 5 games with a .256 goals against average and a very respectable .921 save percentage, while Pavel Francouz is the backup. He is 0-2 with a .410 goals against and an .877 save percentage. Again, Colorado facing New Jersey tonight and then playing the Islanders. So both teams will be on the second day of a back-to-back. Islanders actually have more travel to do than the Avalanche will, but it's going to be difficult for the Islanders to face these two very talented teams back-to-back. Through 7 games right now, Valeri Nichushkin leading the team, 7 goals and 12 points in 7 games. Nathan MacKinnon, 3 goals, 10 points. Mikko Rantanen, 3 goals, 9 points. And Cale Makar, who is arguably the best defenseman in the National Hockey League, 7 assists in 7 games. This team won the Stanley Cup for a reason. They've won their last 2 games on the road, beating Vegas in Vegas 3-2, then beating the Rangers at Madison Square Garden 3-2. They faced the Devils Friday night, and then Saturday faced the Islanders. That's a 7:30 Eastern time start. The power play right now for the Colorado Avalanche is hitting at a 50% success rate. They are first in the league. We know the Islanders' penalty kill has been perfect so far. So let's see whether or not the Islanders' penalty kill can slow down that dangerous, very dangerous Avalanche power play. On the other side, though, the Avalanche are allowing goals a third of the time when they are shorthanded. That's 30th in the league. So maybe the Islanders can take advantage of that. We look at the line combinations for Colorado. Nathan MacKinnon centers Nichushkin and Rantanen on the top line. Alex Newhook is the second line center with Arturi Letkinen and Evan Rodriguez on either side of him. JT Compher is the center of the third line with Andrew Cogliano to his left, Logan O'Connor to his right, and Mikhail Malstev is the fourth line pivot. Dryden Hunt and Martin Kaut are his wingers. Devon Taves, a very familiar face for the Islanders, and Cale Makar make up what may be the best top pairing in the league. Bowen Byram and Josh Manson are the second pairing, and Eric Johnson and Samuel Girard the third. Georgiev and Francouz are the goalies. Darren Helm and Gabriel Landeskog both on IR, and we know Landeskog is out long term. Islanders have their hands full with these two teams, and it really will be a test to see how they handle this situation going up against some really good teams. We've got more to get to on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Our Islanders birthday of the day has a player who I think may be the greatest Islander of all time. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got that and a lot more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. SimpliSafe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, and smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when a threat is real. They even have hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan, and you'll get your first month absolutely free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Time now for our Islanders' birthday of the day. Saturday will be the 69th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Dennis Potvin. Potvin, the first overall pick in the 1973 NHL entry draft. And I'll tell you, Bill Torrey had a lot of trade offers for that pick. The Islanders were coming off the worst season in NHL history up until that point. But Torrey, he got some really good offers. The Canadians offered him a bunch of picks and players. I know Emil Francis of the Rangers, who I got to interview for my book before he passed, told me, and it's in the book, about what he had offered the Islanders and Bill Torrey to try to get that pick. But no, Torrey held on to it, and Dennis Potvin had an immediate impact. Won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year in 73-74, and then won 3 James Norris trophies in 76, 78, and 79 as the league's top defenseman. Was the first defenseman in NHL history to top 300 goals and 1,000 points in his career. Had a career high 101 points in 78, 79, 31 goals, and 70 assists. Had a 98-point season, a 94-point season, and it wasn't just offense. Potvin could be physical. He went over 100 penalty minutes 6 times in his career. He was clutch. He was a leader. He was the captain of the Islanders' 4 straight Stanley Cup winning teams. In 1979-80, 6 goals and 19 points in 21 playoff games. In 80-81, 8 goals and 25 points in 18 playoff games. Each year that the Islanders won the Cup, Dennis Potvin had over a point a game 3 times, well, twice rather, matched a point a game in the playoffs once, and had 19 points in 21 games the other time. He was very, very good when it mattered most. He was also, of course, as we all know, and we talked about this on Thursday's podcast, a Ranger fan favorite. Dates back to a game where he gave a hip check to Ulf Nielsen of the Rangers. Nielsen got injured, was never really the same player after that. Nielsen has since admitted that, you know, he didn't think it was a dirty hit, but Ranger fans never forgave him. And let's face it, Dennis Potvin played his best hockey very often against the New York Rangers. And so the anti-Dennis Potvin chants rained down from Madison Square Garden. Even today, you know, Dennis Potvin hasn't played in, 34 years, and yet those chants are still raining down at Madison Square Garden, even when they're not playing the Islanders. And again, Potvin now introducing Potvin socks, and we talked about that on the Thursday show. We're going to go back and look at one of Dennis Potvin's better games with the Islanders, We go back to April 17th, 1981, Stanley Cup quarterfinals, as they were known then. The Islanders hosting Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers. This is game 2 of the series at the Nassau Coliseum. Islanders already up in the series 1-0. Andy Moog, the goalie for Edmonton, Billy Smith, the netminder for the Islanders. And it was Edmonton getting on the board first. Butch Goring heads off for hooking Glenn Anderson. His second from Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier at 6:11. 1-0 Edmonton. That's how it stayed after one period. But then the Islanders' power play gets going. Dennis Potvin scoring when Risto Siltanen was off for interference. Potvin is third of the playoffs from Mike Bossy and Brian Trottier at 2:26. That tied the game at 1. 3 Hall of Famers involved in that goal. The Islanders' power play clicks again. Wayne Gretzky called for tripping, and the Islanders take advantage. Butch Goring, his second from Stefan Pearson, and our Islanders' birthday of the day, Dennis Potvin at 4:47, 2-1 Isles. But the Islanders short-handed, and Edmonton takes advantage. Risto Siltanen is second from Matty Hagman and Glenn Anderson at 6:05. We're back to 2-2 hockey, but the Islanders' power play gets another chance, and they cash in. Potvin, his fourth from Mike McEwen, and Butch Goring at 9:44 puts the Isles up by a goal. Glenn Anderson answers 2.5 minutes later, his third from Mark Messier at 12:23, and it is 3-3 after 40 minutes. But in the third period, Dennis Potvin, his third of the game, gets the hat trick, his fifth of the year of the playoffs. Bossy and Clark Gillies with the assists at 3:47. Yari Curry was in the box for holding at the time. Then Mike Bossy adds to the Islanders' lead, his fifth from Dennis Potvin, and Ken Morrow at 7:59, and an empty netter by Brian Trottier, his seventh of the postseason, from Bob Bourne at 17:41, makes the final score 6-3 Islanders. They go up 2-0 in the series, end up winning it in 6 games. For our Islanders' birthday of the day, Dennis Potvin, his first and only career playoff hat trick, 3 goals, 5 points. He was a +2. He scored the 3 goals on 4 shots. And yes, he tallied the game-winning goal. 19 saves for Billy Smith as the Islanders were able to hold Edmonton to 22 shots on goal in this game. So Dennis Potvin is our Islanders' birthday of the day, Saturday. He can't believe Dennis Potvin is going to turn 69 years old, but we certainly wish him all the best on his birthday. I want to thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen. Now for your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. It's the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll tell you, the Islanders are going to have a real test this weekend. If they can get 2 points out of 4, that's fine. If they can get 3 or more, I may have to rethink the way I feel about the way this team is playing and what they're capable of. So big test against 2 of the top teams in the league. Both teams, coming off back-to-backs on Saturday. 1 home game, 1 road game. Should be some very interesting hockey, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Of course, we'll be back Monday with our key takeaways and all the latest Islanders news and notes. Until then, stay safe. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the games. And of course, let's go Islanders.